Games can be really lovely, can't they? Bright and cheery platformers, adorable mascots, and breezy life sims are all designed to lift our hearts and make us feel all comfy inside. Forget about all of that though. Seriously, forget about it right now. If just one of the guys we're about to talk about today showed up in the likes of Animal Crossing, the resulting chaos and destruction would be so upsetting I think I'd be in therapy for the rest of my life. Yes, we've delved into the worlds of foul and macabre 8-bit and 16-bit video game bosses in the past, but this time we've plucked up the courage to look at the most hideous and upsetting level guardians that have haunted our video games since the turn of the century. You know, since graphics started to look more realistic. Having said that, not all of these twisted creatures represent cutting-edge visuals. In fact, we've got a variety of visual styles on show here, from various different console generations. After all, when it comes to things that cause revulsion, the idea is just as important as the imagery. I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are the 10 most disturbing video game bosses of the 21st century. Number 10. Ludwig the Accursed, Bloodborne. That's right, we're starting strong on this one. You knew there was going to be something from Bloodborne on this list, and I knew there was going to be something from Bloodborne on this list, so let's delve into the dark, gothic ambiance of Yharnam right away, shall we? Pretty much any boss from Software's 2016 action RPG could have qualified, since Bloodborne is filled to the brim with eldritch abominations, maddening godlike entities, and tragic tortured mutations, and the sinister, disturbing atmosphere only ramps up as you get further into the game. We've chosen Ludwig though, from the Old Hunters DLC. Ludwig was once a cleric of the Healing Church, but succumbed to rage and bloodlust, and mutated into the dictionary definition of abomination. Encountered in a river of blood surrounded by piles of rotting corpses, Ludwig ticks all of the hideous mutation boxes. Multiple mouths, limbs sprouting in all directions, sickly corpse-like skin, and insides hanging out. Outsides, you could call them. Then there's that profane horse-like head that comes straight from our darkest nightmares. And just to put the cherry on top, this lumbering equine fellow likes to screech horribly throughout the entire fight too. Nothing like a giant mutated screaming horseman to calm my nerves. Number 9. Flowey, Undertale. Proof that you don't need super advanced graphical techniques to achieve adequate creepiness levels, Undertale's Flowey is initially presented as an ally, and even provides a handy battle tutorial. Progress deeper into the game though, and you'll soon realise that this perfidious pansy is true evil all the way down to the roots. When Flowey reveals his true self, the already disquieting ambience of the game takes on a decidedly sinister tone. Flowey's face distorts as his true plans are revealed, and he morphs into an enormous cackling monstrosity composed of various eyes, mouths, and other bits. Its body is attached to a number of unsettlingly biological-looking soul tubes, and a monitor on its back displays looping, sinister imagery. This form, known as Photoshop Flowey, presumably because it looks like the result of an extremely unhinged person fiddling in Photoshop for an afternoon, has a visual style unlike anything else in the game. This sudden shift will completely disarm players used to Undertale's charming pixelated style. Before turning into this aberration, however, Flowey reveals his most terrible power of all, the power to manipulate your save file. Oh, the absolute monster. At least the horse guy from Bloodborne doesn't mess with your data. Number 8. Gigabon the Sarcophagus Head, Neo Contra. Back to 2004 now, and a series that's been known for its eye-catching bosses since the 8-bit days. Neo Contra was released on the PS2 and takes place on a futuristic Earth that's been converted into a prison planet. The opening stage is known as Frontline Base 985, a military facility that's mostly guarded by soldiers, turrets, and various armoured vehicles. That is until you reach this suspiciously boss arena-like room. Some kind of advanced flying machine swoops in, and then instantly becomes breakfast for the real boss, an alien life form known as, we think, Gigabon the Sarcophagus Head. And no, I'm not saying sarcophagus incorrectly, that's actually what it's called. Rising up from a shaft in the center of the room, this creature initially looks like a fairly generic alien beast. A little phallic perhaps, but nothing too terrible. But then its tip opens up, and its friendly face is revealed. This handsome chap will proceed to shoot insects from its nose, spew acid from its mouth, and generally exhibit a distinct lack of manners throughout. I'm not sure which part of this alien is the most upsetting, to be honest, the twisted head or the toothy, bulbous, veiny shaft whence it popped out. Can we go back to fighting heavily armed tanks again, please? Number 7. Cleopatra, Dante's Inferno. Time for something a bit more feminine now, as we look at 2010's infamously uncomfortable action-adventure, Dante's Inferno. If you know a bit about history, you'll know that Cleopatra was the last queen of Egypt, and that she took her own life rather than become a prisoner of the invading Romans. Dante's Inferno decided to pick up her story after this, where she struck a deal with Lucifer to become ruler of the Lust Circle of Hell, along with her former lover, Mark Antony, who apparently lives in her mouth. Anyway, complicated real and fantastical histories aside, Cleopatra takes the form of a big, scary, purple lady in Dante's Inferno, and is fought as the third boss in the game. The first part of this encounter occurs as protagonist Dante is scaling her carnal tower, and as well as just being generally violent and unsettling, Cleopatra will spawn mewling, sickle-armed infants from her big purple nipples. Once you've stopped squirming in your seat from that particular visual, you'll have to continue to the top of the tower, where a face-off with Big Cleo and her aforementioned lover will play out. Once Mark is dispatched, Cleopatra will revert to her normal human size, but she's no less creepy and intimidating. Carry on Cleo, this ain't. Number 6. Ko-omote, Ghostwire Tokyo. Cleopatra, incidentally, was known to be fond of cats, but even she would probably have drawn the line at this particular feline. There are loads of bosses in Ghostwire Tokyo that could have made our list, like Spider Lady Okina, who would take a little bit more than a cup and a piece of paper to get out of the house, and the Woman in Red, who has a really unique smile. We decided to go with ko-omote though, because you'd expect cat-like creatures in video games to either be cute and cuddly, or noble and ferocious. This spectral kitty, however, is just downright creepy. The battle itself takes place in a distorted neon realm, which would actually be a pretty cool place to explore if you weren't being stalked by a giant hairless ghost cat that can up and disappear whenever it wants to. Then there's its head. In Japanese, ko-omote literally translates to small face, which is ironic really, because one of the most disturbing things about ko-omote is how disproportionately huge its face is compared to its already disproportionately large body. It may be Japanese, but this is no cute anime cat girl, and is definitely not the sort of kitty I'd want cuddled up on my lap in front of the fire. Number 5. Moreau, Resident Evil Village. One of the most disquieting things about Resident Evil Village's Moreau, aside from the bulbous wet growths and his propensity to vomit green sludge, is just how pathetic he is. Looked down upon by the other village lords, yet still utterly devoted to the sinister Mother Miranda, who he views as his actual mother, Moreau is desperate to prove himself. Don't let your pity disarm you though, as Moreau is as dangerous as they come. His cloak hides a swollen, slimy mutation, and he's been known to feed on unsuspecting fishermen and perform cruel experiments of his own, despite being the result of one. In an attempt to stop protagonist Ethan Winters from foiling his mother's plans, he traps Ethan with walls of disgusting fish slime, and then mutates into some twisted mega murloc to chase Ethan down. Definitely something fishy going on here. Oh, and while we're talking about Resident Evil Village, just a quick shout out to the absolutely terrifying enormous baby that stalks Ethan through the dark corridors beneath House Beneviento, squealing and blubbering as it goes. It would very much have made the list, but it's arguably more of an encounter than an actual boss, because it can't be killed. Ugh. Number 4. The Child, Catherine. But hey, don't worry about missing out on grotesque infants, because there is a hideous giant baby we can talk about. 2011's Catherine is a game that's rich with symbolism, and most of the gameplay takes place during protagonist Vincent's nightmares. These nightmare sections take the form of blocky towers that Vincent must navigate, using a combination of platforming and puzzle solving to escape whatever form his fears are manifesting as that night. The day before this particular nightmare, Catherine with a K tells Vincent she might be pregnant. Now, Vincent, at this stage in his life, is not the sort of guy that's going to be all that receptive to concepts like commitment and responsibility, and it doesn't take a genius to imagine what's on his mind that night. Terrified at the possibility of becoming a father, Vincent is subsequently pursued through his nightmares by a giant undead-looking entity known as the Child. This titanic toddler screams pleadingly and accusingly for its daddy as it climbs relentlessly out of the darkness below, looking up from the void through clouded eyes and reaching out with big chubby hands. As if all of that wasn't bad enough, this theoretical future offspring returns later in the game sporting some interesting body modifications. I have to say, a cyborg chainsaw baby was not something I expected to be contemplating today. Number 3. Pigsy, Manhunt. Rockstar's controversial stealth-based Violent sum-up was originally released back in 2003 and told the story of death row inmate James Earl Cash, who is forced to fight for his life against other criminals for the sake of a depraved film production. Banned or removed from sale in multiple countries, it's no surprise that Manhunt contains some pretty disturbing content. As far as bosses go, though, nothing quite tops Pigsy. Encountered in the abandoned attic of the main antagonist's mansion, this despicable creature wears the bloody head of a skinned pig as a hood and feeds on human remains. He'll emit crazed squeals as he chases Cash through the dilapidated corridors, wielding a bloody chainsaw and wearing nothing but the aforementioned porcine headwear. Naked, grotesque, and deranged, this psychopath stayed in the heads of many who played the infamous early 2000s action thriller. Pigsy isn't a mutant, an undead abomination, or some kind of ancient godlike being. He's just a man, a squealing pigskin-wearing man with an unhinged fascination with murder, and he's all the more disturbing for it. The absolute worst thing about Pigsy is that out there, somewhere, someone like him might actually exist. Should we get back to gigantic, disgusting demons again? Yeah, okay, that's much better. Number 2. Succubus, DMC, Devil May Cry. In folklore, a succubus is a female demon that seduces men in their dreams. More often than not, video games will depict succubi as alluring temptresses, resembling a beautiful human female with one or two demonic accents. Some bat wings here, a pair of hooves there, maybe a horn or two, and boom, you've got yourself a succubus. However, Ninja Theory's Devil May Cry reboot, known as DMC Devil May Cry, doesn't go down this route. Subverting the expectations of seasoned gamers and demon hunters everywhere, DMC's succubus has more in common with the Slurm Queen than Morrigan from Darkstalkers. Initially looking like some kind of gigantic cocoon suspended from the walls and ceiling of her lair, this ancient demonic creature soon reveals spindly clawed appendages and a looming crone-like face. This pulsating demonic mass has quite the foul mouth too, and not just because she likes to vomit corrosive bile at a moment's notice. She and Dante have quite the expletive-filled exchange of pre-battle insults. Oh, and that Slurm Queen comparison wasn't just a visual one either. The succubus's lair is underneath a factory that produces a soft drink called Virility, and the drink's secret ingredient is her excreted fluid. And I really hope you weren't enjoying a nice sip of a sugary beverage when I just said that. Sorry. And number 1, Miriam Bell, Faith, the Unholy Trinity. Games with retro aesthetics are a great way to take older gamers back to the wide-eyed enthusiasm of their youth. Cleverly riffing on this idea, Faith the Unholy Trinity uses retro graphics and sounds from the Atari 2600 era to perhaps awaken some old childhood fears too. Miriam Bell is one of the main antagonists of the Faith trilogy. A nun-turned-cult leader, Miriam tries to summon the Antichrist onto Earth via a particularly unpleasant ritual. She's encountered a few times throughout the trilogy, and each encounter is terribly unsettling and accompanied by tremendously creepy digitized voice lines. When it's finally time to do battle with this elderly cultist, players encounter her hanging immobile after a failed attempt to become a demon vessel herself. A demon named Malthus and the demonic version of Miriam's own son, Gary, possess her, and things take a turn for the extra unpleasant. Miriam's levitating body writhes as a maddening demonic force bursts forth from it, and throughout the battle, the player is assaulted by a wall of white noise that gradually builds in volume as the dread intensifies. Worst of all, many of Miriam's voice clips are taken from tape recordings of a series of real-life exorcisms that took place in Germany in the 70s. Do yourself a favour and do not go looking that up after the video, okay?